My name is Lily Anderson. I'm 31, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the quiet backbone of my family. The fixer, the listener, the one everyone calls when something needs mending, rearranging, or salvaging. I design schools and small civic buildings, but at home, I'm an architect of calm. I keep the wheels turning so no one else has to notice the leaks. My daughter, Nora, is 7. She has my stubborn jaw and her father's gentle honesty. When she laughs, it's like marbles rolling across hardwood. When she's quiet, she builds kingdoms out of cereal boxes, miniature cities from shoe boxes, entire universes from masking tape and paper. Everyone in my family knows this. They also know my younger sister, Sophia, is the golden one. She's 30, works in event marketing, and smiles like she belongs in the spotlight. If our family were a room, she'd be the chandelier everyone tilts their chairs toward. I learned early that in our house, help only flowed one way. When Sophia needed a backdrop for a pop-up, a wall repainted, or a clumsy boyfriend's drywall patched before a landlord inspection, guess who showed up with drop cloths and spackle? Me. When I needed more than a nod or a proud-of-you glance, silence. 2 years ago, I moved into the carriage house behind my parents' estate while I rebuilt my credit after a health scare with Nora. I gutted the space, rewired it, leveled the floors, installed proper egress windows, all at my own expense. My parents called it temporary, but the pause afterward said more than words ever could. The hook didn't fully set until a Sunday dinner that early spring. The table smelled like lemon oil and roast chicken. My mother plated asparagus like she was auditioning for a cooking show. My father carved meat as if timing were a sport. Sophia swirled her wine and said, casual as a prayer, "So you're still in the carriage house?" "Until I close on something," I replied, keeping my voice light. "Prices are insane." Sophia tilted her head. "It's kind of perfect back there." "Starter home perfect. I mean, I'm 30. It's time I owned something." My dad kept carving. My mom kept plating. No one looked at me. Nora poked my sleeve. "Mom, can I have the drumstick you don't want?" "Take both," I said, because suddenly I didn't want any. Sophia lifted a shoulder. "It would be good for the family, to finally have me settled." My mom sipped her wine thoughtfully. It would be nice to see Sophia in a place of her own. There was a small, quiet click inside my head, the sound of a detail falling into place. You know that sound? It's the one that says, "This is exactly what's coming." I cut the chicken skin with my fork, pushed it to the side, and said nothing. Not yet. That night, after tucking Nora into bed, she pushed her tablet under her pillow like it was a diary. "Are we moving? We're okay?" she asked. "Go to sleep," I said, though I was already drafting a map of what was unfolding without me. The story didn't start in a courtroom. It started with the usual slow drip. "Lily, can you grab coffee after work?" my mother texted. I showed up at a cafe near my office, still in boots speckled with drywall dust. She had a folder. Parents and folders. Why do they think that makes bad news professional? "We've been talking," she said. I braced myself. "I think it's time to make things official with the carriage house," she added delicately. "Official how?" I asked. Sophia had been saving for a down payment on the carriage house I currently lived in. "It's important for young women to build equity," my mom said, as if reading from a charm. I blinked. So, she wants that place. The folder slid across the table. Inside, comps, a rough sketch of the property line, and a drafted family tenancy agreement. My name ghosted out. 90 days. Gift. Family equity. Legacy. It read like a Hallmark card an eviction notice had a baby. I laughed. Not cruelly, just tired. "I can't do 90 days, I said. Sophia cut in a week later at dinner, returning to the topic like a cat to a warm spot. "I'll even be a cool neighbor." "You haven't paid rent here since college," I said. "That's not the point," she said, rolling her eyes. "The point is fairness." Fairness. Apparently, that now meant throwing a 7-year-old's drawings into banker boxes because a 30-year-old wanted Instagram captions about keys. The worst part wasn't the paper. It was the microaggressions, the small dismissals that accumulated into guilt and tension. My mom stopped leaving leftovers at my door. My dad stopped pretending to check on the boiler. Sophia hovered in my doorway like a realtor. "You could do floating shelves," she mused once, eyes running lines across the wall like a laser level. "Sophia," I said, "this is my home." She smiled innocently. For now, the night whispered through the radiators, ticking like a clock counting down. I lay awake, rehearsing calm words. Angry words wouldn't work. Calm words might make the truth sit down and notice. Because when you design roofs, you learn to read loads. Some walls bear weight, some are decoration. I wasn't sure yet which were my parents, which were Sophia. But the court date, inevitable as gravity, was coming. A week later, the mail carrier handed me a green envelope with my name typed across the front. My heart sank before I even opened it. Inside, crisp letters and formal language spelled out what I'd been dreading. My parents had filed an eviction lawsuit, so Sophia could claim the carriage house as her first home. I read it 3 times, letting the words sink. Plaintiffs, Margaret and Richard Foster. Defendant, Lily Anderson. Their names felt like a blade. My daughter leaned against my knee, oblivious to the legal terminology, but her eyes searched mine. "Why are you making that thinking face, Mom?" "Because grown-ups are being silly," I said, forcing a smile. Silly. That's what you call cruelty when a 7-year-old can't understand motives. I called my father. "You sued me?" I asked. "We didn't sue you," he said, calm as if he hadn't just ruined a family dinner. "The lawyer did the paperwork," he added, as though responsibility could be outsourced. "So you hired a lawyer to sue me. It's not personal?" "It's not. It's just time. Sophia needs stability." "And Nora needs what, a suitcase?" Silence, then the distant hum of a television. My parents' notion of fairness was packaged neatly in legalese. I realized rage wouldn't help. I needed a strategy. I gathered every shred of evidence I could find. Receipts from remodeling the carriage house, bank statements showing rent payments, emails confirming work I'd done at their request. I compiled notes of every interaction that proved my role as both caretaker and provider of stability for Nora. Dropping Nora off at school, her small hand gripped mine tightly. "We don't have to move, right?" she asked. "Not if I can help it," I whispered. She smiled like she believed it, and I vowed silently I would do everything to make sure she was safe, that her home remained hers. Then came Charles, my boyfriend, a quiet anchor in a stormy sea. I called him to explain, trying to sound casual. "Quick thing," I said. "My parents served me, like a lawsuit." He exhaled slowly on the line. "Do I need to get more nights with Nora while you figure this out?" "Maybe. But one thing, if this goes to court, don't bring her unless the judge asks. She shouldn't have to sit through this." "Of course not," he said, softer. "I'm sorry." "Me too," I replied, even though apologies felt meaningless against the machinery of betrayal. The next weeks were a haze of family group texts and thinly veiled guilt. Family is everything. Sophia deserves a chance. It's only fair. Fair. The word had been weaponized, twisted into justification for taking a child's home away. At night, when the carriage house was silent and the radiators clicked, I traced blueprints on scraps of plywood. I measured Nora's room, sketched a loft bed that doubled as drawers, and imagined our life together, our little fortress against the storm outside. Meanwhile, Sophia didn't just wait politely. She hovered, commented, measured, suggested paint colors. Every move screamed entitlement. "You could do floating shelves," she said once, eyes scanning my walls like a surveyor. "Sophia," I said, "this is my home." She smiled, unbothered. For her, the moral calculus was simple. Family support meant she could take without asking. For me, it was a slow, gnawing realization that the people who raised me were no longer my allies. They were instruments of a plan I hadn't consented to. I documented everything. Emails, texts, permits, receipts. I took photos of every modification I had made, every floor leveled, every wire installed. I had a case, but more importantly, I had the truth. And the truth was something paper couldn't erase. Nora helped too, in her own small way. She would show me drawings she'd made, plans for a backyard bridge, a tiny city, a loft bed I hadn't yet built. Her trust was absolute. She believed I could fix everything, keep everyone safe, and protect her world from falling apart. Through it all, I realized something crucial. This wasn't just about property. It was about power. Who got to dictate the terms of our lives? Who got to claim ownership of what we had built together? And I would not let my family take that from us without a fight. Calm, precise, documented, strategic. That was my weapon. Rage was theirs. I had facts. The first court date loomed, and with it, the knowledge that the slow drip of manipulation would finally pour into daylight. Sophia would have her stage. My parents would plead reason. But I had something far more potent. evidence, preparation, and the quiet strength of a mother who refused to let her child's life be hijacked by entitlement. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, beige walls and tired flags hanging limply. The clock ticked like it was competing with my heartbeat. Sophia wore a crisp white blazer, all confidence and ambition, like she belonged on a magazine cover rather than in a room debating a 7-year-old's home. My parents sat shoulder to shoulder, a united front in appearance only. Charles stayed behind me, steady and calm, a silent anchor. Nora sat beside him, tablet and backpack, earbuds in, the small emblem of her quiet courage. The lawyer my parents hired spoke first, carefully enunciating legalese. Permissive use, revocation, reasonable expectation, first opportunity at home ownership. First home. He repeated it rhythmically, like a sermon, hoping repetition could make their case sound inevitable. When it was my turn, my mouth felt dry, chalky. But architects present facts, not feelings, even when the floor beneath them shakes. I am not a squatter, I said. I am their daughter. I have paid utilities, taxes on the outbuilding, sent rent every month. I remodeled the structure at my expense with their permission. I have receipts. I placed the folder on the table. The paper made a faint thunk, a sound of truth asserting itself. They want to evict me so Sophia can have it as her first home, I continued, my voice quiet but firm. That is their phrase. But there's a pattern of subsidizing their plans while treating my contribution as invisible, and of teaching entitlement over gratitude. The judge, mid-50s, kind-eyed but sharp, listened without interruption. I need facts, she said. We walked through photos, emails, texts thanking me for covering taxes, even as repayment never arrived. Venmo transfers. Permits I had pulled at my father's request. Everything. Paper cannot be rewritten. Evidence does not forget. Sophia spoke, her voice glossy, rehearsed. I'm not the bad guy. I've been saving. I deserve what every woman deserves, a safe home. You do, I said softly. It just doesn't have to be mine. Her expression faltered for a fraction of a second, then returned. The judge raised a hand, silencing my parents' attempted interruptions. And then it happened. A small tug at Charles's sleeve. Nora, who had been quietly drawing, stood. Small children stand like lightning, sudden, undeniable. Your Honor, she said, voice high but steady, can I show you something Mommy doesn't know? The courtroom held its breath. The judge softened, curiosity piqued. Who are you? She asked. I'm Nora, she said. I'm 7. I nodded once. You may. Nora walked to the front, pulled her tablet from her backpack. It's a video, she said, from our camera. I learned how to save it. This was show and tell. The judge accepted the tablet carefully, as if holding fragile evidence. The video played. Afternoon light spilled into our living room. My mom and Sophia entered while I was at work. My mom rifled through mail. Sophia walked into the kitchen and removed the battery from the CO detector. Don't touch that, my mom whispered. Not a command, almost like a stage direction. Relax, Sophia said, smiling. If the inspector fails, she'll have to move out faster. The video cut between our conversation and my daughter's voice, tiny and precise. Hi, Mommy, she called. Sophia spun around, mask intact. Secret. Don't tell Mommy we were here. Surprise. It went on, clear and damning. Audio and video in perfect synchronization. Instructions on which breaker controlled the heat. Discussions of when the house would appear unsafe. A coordinated attempt to manipulate inspection outcomes, to manufacture a reason for eviction. I felt my stomach churn. Gratitude, disbelief, and righteous anger collided. The judge watched, silent, absorbing the evidence like a stone. My parents tried to speak. We didn't mean... Here's what we're not going to do, the judge said, quiet but cutting. We are not going to pretend this is about a young woman's empowerment when I have a video showing coordinated interference with safety devices. The room was boiling and frozen at once. My parents were speechless. Sophia, for all her preparation, looked small. This isn't about revenge, I said calmly, almost mechanically. This is about closure, about equity, about not letting a child's life be used as a tool to serve entitlement. Petition denied, motion dismissed with prejudice. Plaintiffs are prohibited from entering the defendant's residence without consent. The judge turned to Nora. You did the right thing. Her small face blinked, incredulous. Are we moving? She whispered. Not today, the judge said softly. Then to me, get your locks changed. And just like that, it was over. But the reverberations lingered, news traveling through the family like smoke through drywall, lingering in every crack. At home, Charles hugged Nora on the porch. "Hero," he whispered. She shrugged, modestly, as if just coloring inside the lines had saved the day. I sat on the couch, staring at the CO detector. Intact. Battery in. That night, as I installed new deadbolts, I realized safety isn't just codes and locks. It's boundaries. It's calm voices. It's refusing to answer calls or letters that carry manipulation disguised as concern. And for the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to breathe. We were safe. We were home. The courtroom victory felt surreal. I had expected relief, but what came first was exhaustion, a deep, bone-weary weight pressing down as if the fight had left pieces of me scattered across the room. Charles helped me carry groceries into the carriage house, moving with quiet strength that reminded me how rare allies like him were. Nora ran ahead, her laughter filling the small space we called home. "Mom, look! I built a tower out of cereal boxes." Her enthusiasm was pure, untainted by the family machinations we had just endured. I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. The next morning, my phone buzzed, messages from my parents, tentative, guilt-laden. "We overreacted. Let's talk." Sophia sent a long paragraph about the pressure she had felt. I just wanted a safe home. I didn't respond immediately. Silence can be a boundary too. When it's respected, it teaches lessons far sharper than words. Instead, I drafted my own letter. Not legal, not pleading, just a line in the sand. "Mom, Dad, Sophia, I love you." That hasn't changed. What has changed is access. You don't get keys anymore. You don't set timelines. You don't walk into my home because you decided it's yours. If we talk in the future, it will be in a therapist's office with rules. If you post about me, don't. If you show up here, don't. This is not revenge. This is closure. I left it in their mailbox, the thunk of the envelope sounding final. The weeks that followed were quiet but deliberate. I changed all the locks, booked an electrician to inspect the house, and repaired the things that had been tampered with. Every action was a statement. We were safe, and our home belonged to us alone. Nora thrived in the small sanctuary we had carved out. We built the loft bed I had sketched, complete with drawers and hidden cubbies. We spent weekends creating driftwood bridges in the backyard, making pancakes that were never perfect but always eaten with gusto. Charles helped where he could, his calm presence reinforcing our sense of stability. Meanwhile, the messages from my parents shifted tone. They tested the waters. Casual check-ins, questions disguised as concern. I responded minimally. Each interaction was carefully measured, a lesson in maintaining boundaries while not fueling further conflict. Sophia posted photos on social media. Condo keys, backsplash tiles, happy captions. I didn't comment. I watched from a distance, detached. She had her victory, but it was hollow. For all her planning and plotting, she hadn't understood the strength required to protect a child's world from intrusion. Months later, we attended a cousin's wedding. My parents hovered near the coffee station, trying jokes and small talk. I answered only what mattered, guided Nora gently through the crowds, and let Charles navigate the social minefield with quiet humor. Sophia was there too, meticulously polite, but the air between us was taut. I noticed the shift, no longer a sense of entitlement, only the awkwardness of those who had tried and failed to manipulate. Nora, unaware of the subtle dynamics, collected flower petals for our improvised backyard fairy garden. Her innocence reminded me why boundaries mattered. Safety wasn't just locks or batteries. It was knowing that promises weren't just words, that knives could be hidden behind smiles, and that truth, when documented and defended, could prevail. At home, evenings were our sanctuary. We read together, built, and planned. Even therapy messages from my parents, which arrived sporadically, were met with the same calm boundary. Yes, clinic and appointment. We will talk there if needed. The control was finally ours. And slowly, I began to recognize something I hadn't in years. Peace doesn't come from victory alone, but from reclaiming the life you've built. The carriage house no longer felt like a fragile space under siege. It was a home, our home. I pressed play on Nora's old video once, letting the lesson echo through the room. Family could try to manipulate, to bend reality to their narrative, but we had learned to measure twice, cut once. Boundaries weren't meanness, they were seatbelts. Safety wasn't just a word, it was the click of a deadbolt, the thunk of a letter in a mailbox, the calm voice that refused to be drawn into drama. In the end, the house was more than 4 walls and a roof. It was the life we had chosen, the one we protected, the one we would continue to build, day by day, tower by tower, bridge by bridge. Time passed in quiet increments. The tension that had once hung over the carriage house like a storm cloud began to dissipate, replaced with a calm that felt almost alien after months of conflict. Charles and I settled into routines that were ours alone. Breakfasts, school drop-offs, weekend projects, they became rituals, not obligations imposed by others. Nora thrived, her imagination unshackled from fear or secrecy. The loft bed we had built together became her fortress, complete with hidden cubbies and fairy lights that glowed softly at night. She would curl up with her tablet or a stack of books, her small fingers tracing the lines of drawings and diagrams as if memorizing the blueprint of her safe world. My parents, predictably, tested boundaries. Occasional texts, calls, the tentative inquiry disguised as concern. I replied sparingly, never letting them dictate access or expectations. Each interaction was a quiet assertion. We were living life on our terms now. Sophia, for her part, remained distant but visible on social media, celebrating her condo and her carefully curated life. I watched but no longer felt the tug of obligation or guilt. Her victories were hollow if they came at the expense of honesty and trust. One Saturday, Nora and I returned from the lake, a bundle of driftwood in the trunk, her hair damp and sticking to her cheeks. "Mom," she said, voice bright with discovery, "I figured out how to make a bridge that doesn't fall even if a heavy rock lands on it." She held out her design, her small hands trembling with excitement. "That's brilliant," I said, genuinely amazed. "Show me." We built it together, side by side, laughter filling the garage. Charles joined later, quietly offering advice, never taking over, letting us reclaim the moment for ourselves. It was ordinary, domestic, unremarkable to anyone else, but to me, it was revolutionary. Life uncoerced, life unmanipulated. Months later, we hosted a small gathering for friends. My parents didn't attend. Sophia didn't either. I didn't miss them. Charles and I moved through our circle of chosen family, watching Nora weave through them like a small, joyful force of nature. The house no longer felt like a battleground, but as a home, infused with memories of perseverance, triumph, and love untainted by manipulation. I often found myself reflecting on the lessons of the past months. Safety wasn't just locks or batteries or legal victories. It was boundaries, trust, and the courage to refuse being reshaped to fit someone else's narrative. It was teaching a child that honesty and bravery were more important than pleasing those who would exploit innocence. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset spill across the trees, Nora nestled in my lap. I pressed play on the old video she had recorded months ago. The courtroom footage, Sophia's scheming, my parents' calculated smiles. It was a memory now, a lesson in the architecture of family dynamics. "You know," I said softly, "you were very brave, showing the truth. That helped us keep our home." Nora tilted her head, absorbing the weight of her actions. "Mom," she said, "truth is like a bridge, strong if you build it right." I smiled, feeling the full measure of our journey. Strong, protected, home. Life wasn't perfect, and my parents and Sophia remained part of the background of our story, but they no longer dictated the terms. Our walls, our locks, our routines, they were ours. Every laugh, every pancake, every tower of cereal boxes was a testament to endurance, strategy, and love that refuses to bend under manipulation. And in that quiet, the peace we had fought so fiercely to reclaim settled over us like sunlight through leaves. We had survived betrayal, boundary pushing, and manipulation. We had emerged intact, and more than intact, we had emerged whole. Home was no longer a concept tied to deeds, papers, or ownership. It was trust, love, and courage. It was Nora's laughter echoing in the loft, Charles's calm hand steady beside mine, and the knowledge that, Finally, we belong to ourselves alone. I drew her close, inhaling the scent of laundry detergent and evening air. "We're safe," I whispered, "and we always will be." She pressed her small hand against mine. "Yes, Mom, always." For the first time in years, I felt it fully. Closure. Not from revenge, not from punishment, but from reclaiming the architecture of our life, one careful, deliberate choice at a time. We were home.